So if you've ever struggled to understand the box model, you're probably not alone. But the box model itself is quite simple. It's the idea that every element on your page is in itself contained within a box. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you today, and I'm going to explain how the box model works and how padding, border and margin are all part of the box model. So let's get started with an example, just to start us off. So to start with, I have a div here which has no styling. So if you have a look, I can select that with my developer tools, click this little button here and select that content, and you can see in this box here, this shows you the box model for the current item that you've selected. So all we have here is the content. The padding has no value, the border has no value, and the margin has no value. So this is a box that only has content. In this second example, I have a box which has a border. So we have a content, as we discussed in the first example, then we have no padding, then we have a 5-pixel border, and then we have no margin. Now if I was to introduce padding to this, so in this example I've removed the border again just so I can show you the padding. So here we have our content, and then there is a padding around it which just nudges it inwards within its container, which in this case is a div. Then there is no border and there is no margin. Now in the next example, instead of padding, I've put a margin of the same value. Now you'll notice things look very similar. The difference is that padding is internal and margin is external. Think of the border as the edge of your object, then the margin is the space around your object, and your padding is the space within your object. I hope this is beginning to make sense. In this example, obviously, I only have the margin, and in the previous example, I only have the padding. That's why they look very similar, because they're the same value. However, in this example, we have margin and padding, and notice how they work together. One doesn't replace the other, they actually work together. And then in this example, you can see that we have another div. This one has margin, then the border, then the padding, and then the content. And hopefully this is the clearest example now, that you can see them all working together. So think of the border as the outline to our object. Think of the padding as the inside of our object, and then the margin on the outside. And the content is the innermost thing, pushed in by the padding, contained by the border, and then the whole element is arranged on the page by its margin. Now one thing you will notice with the box model, and can often be confusing, is here I've set this div to have a width of 500 pixels. As you can see, if I remove that and add that in, we have a 500 pixel width. However, if you go and look at the actual element and look at its sizes, you can see when I hover over it, it says that it has a width of 550 by 68.67. So why does it have a width of 550 when I've told it to have a width of 500? Well, the reason for this is it takes into account the padding and the border as extras on top of the original width. So for this, the content has a width of 500 pixels, and then it adds 20 pixels for the padding, and then it adds 5 pixels for the border. However, it actually, when you think about it, it's adding 5 pixels on both sides, and it's adding padding on both sides. Therefore, we've hit 550 pixels. However, I only want it to be 500 pixels. So how can I get around this? The easiest solution to this is to add another rule As you can see in this final div, what I've done is added a box sizing of border box. And simply what this does is, instead of taking the width of the content then adding on the width of the padding and then the width of the border, it instead incorporates those into the width of the element. So I've set it to have a width of 500 pixels, and therefore the border is part of that 500 pixel width, and so is the padding. So it's actually made the content smaller, which is more the outcome I wanted. So there you have it, a quick guide to the box model in CSS. Hopefully you now have a good understanding of the box model, and you understand how margin, padding and border work together to create the box model and keep all of your elements nicely maintained and contained. As usual, I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, please leave a comment, and don't forget to like, share and definitely do subscribe.